Okay, here we are. I am here with Robert Dilts. We are in Switzerland, and I am absolutely delighted to be here and yes, and talk about Sleight of Mouth. We're going to talk about an upcoming course.
Yes.
It's going to be in Switzerland, 25th and 26th of January to 25. And so we're here to talk about that program.
Mm-hmm.
But before we start, maybe I should just do a little introductions for those who have never heard about Robert Dilts. I know that if you're in the NLP world, you probably have heard of him so many times because you are one of the, how can I say, co-developer of NLP. Would you say that?
Yeah, I was going to say it's what's interesting about 2025 is I got started in NLP in 1975. So it's going to be the 50 year. Wow. This is 15-year anniversary. Wow. And I got involved back in 1975 before NLP actually had its name.
Mm-hmm.
And Bandler and Grinder had just finished The Structure of Magic Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got involved, and I would say, I'm certainly co-developer in the sense that NLP Volume 1, I'm co-author, in fact, the primary author. So I was definitely involved in helping to put all that together and, help to develop it into what it is today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I never know if I should say co-developer, developer, but you have, because you have done some incredible contributions to the NLP world. I have written just some tools that is just fantastic. For example, you are the developer of Logical Levels, which is just an amazing tool. If you work as a coach or if you work in companies and if you want to find a level of change. So to change, like you have to know where to begin and what to work with. And then you have done an incredible tool. This is actually one of my favorites. It's reimprinting. That is such a beautiful tool. But that's more like working with wounds from childhood.
Right.
Wound, emotion, negative emotion.
With transforming past wounds to I like to say to transform them, healing them, transforming them so they actually can become a resource. Mm-hmm. So instead of something that holds people down, they're actually something that can really help to move it forward.
I love that. I don't know how many hundreds of reimprinting I've done. It's just amazing and so beautiful. It's more like a therapeutic tool, I think. Yeah. And then you have also, since I wanted to show to the listeners just some of your books because you have been modeling.
Yes. This is The Strategies of Genius.
Yes.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes. And then I have
Albert Einstein.
I don't have, you have Walt Disney. And
also Nikola Tesla.
Oh, wow. Okay, I haven't heard that one. Okay, beautiful.
And Mozart.
Mozart as well. And also, I actually saw on the web an article. You've been modeling I thought it was just incredible. The healing surgeries.
Yes.
That was very, very interesting.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. There's so much to learn from all these experts. Yeah. Anyways, so I was just about saying. So the creative strategy of Walt Disney, which is also a tool that we teach in NLP.
Yeah. Imagineering.
Yes, absolutely. And then you have created a long time ago already, Sleight of Mouth.
Yes.
You wrote one first book of Sleight of Mouth.
Yes. So I started working on Sleight of Mouth like in 1980, but the first book was published in 1999, which was 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then the second volume has just come out 25 years later.
Yes, and that's the book we're going to talk about because that's the course. And it's going to be about Sleight of Mouth.
The subtitle there is How Words Can Change Worlds.
Exactly.
Words create worlds, words change worlds.
Yeah, it's amazing. Everything we tell ourselves and think about ourselves. So now, Robert, the upcoming course is about, so Sleight of Mouth. What is it, Sleight of Mouth?
So sleight of mouth, in English, it's a play on words, right? So in English, you have what's called sleight of hand, and sleight of hand is a form of magic.
Yes.
So you can, you pull a rabbit out of the hat, or you have a cards, and suddenly the joker turns into an ace. And so it's usually based on the dexterity, the manual dexterity of a musician. And it's about, of course, creating illusion of a type. And so sleight of mouth is, well, language does the same thing. I can talk about something in a way that makes it seem good. I can talk about something in the way that makes it seem bad, in the way that makes it seem interesting, in the way that makes it seem, scary. So the way in which we talk about things determines how we perceive them, how we relate to them, and ultimately how we respond to them.
Wow.
And one of the reasons that I decided to write this second volume after 25 years is because the world really needs it. And partially one of the things I explain in the book is that we live more and more in a sleight of mouth world. And what I mean by that is, sleight of mouth, another way of talking about sleight of mouth is it's about the language of beliefs and belief systems. So we use language for many things, but sleight of mouth is in particular about a particular aspect of language where, we're creating the belief about something. And so if we look at our world today, first of all, we can see there's increasing amounts of trauma going on. There's increasing amounts of divisiveness, polarizations. But at the same time, we're more and more inundated with information from social media. And now you have things like, deep fake news, what are called algorithmic bubbles, which means I'm only getting reflected back to me what I already think. I'm only getting fed to me something that already just keeps reinforcing some belief that I have. And so we live in this world where that I would say it's one of the terms I would use is groundless reality. What I mean by groundless reality is, I haven't been to Ukraine. I haven't been to Middle East, at least in the last years. I don't really know what's going on there, right, personally. But so we have to get this through these information sources, which are oftentimes feeding us different kinds of not just the information, but the judgment about it, beliefs about it. Absolutely. And so one of the key things I'm addressing in this book is the notion of what I would call a thought virus.
Yeah.
The thought virus is interesting because if we think about COVID-19, what is a virus? A virus is something we catch from somebody else, right? It's not our own. We didn't make it. We're infected by it. And the same thing is true with a thought virus. It's not my thought. It's the thought that is coming to me that is sort of getting, reinforced or, continually, transmitted. But if I take it on, then I make it mine. And that's what a computer virus is, or a physical virus. Now, what I wanted to do here is to help people get a kind of a virus detection system.
Oh, perfect. And I also very often think, because there's something we don't learn in school, but words are words. That's not experience.
That's right.
So we go along, or we have all these words, these interpretations, and all the beliefs, and all even those toxic thoughts, viruses, thought viruses, etc. It's not experience.
Yeah. And I think that's actually one of the so I have a series of red flags in this book, amongst other things. But this is one of the key things. One of those red flags is if it's just verbal and not connected to any other intelligences, meaning visual or somatic or something related to experience. So you create, as you were saying, this whole world just of words, just of concepts and ideas that have nothing to do, or not nothing, but are very disconnected, at least, let's say, from people's actual experience, actual emotional responses. Mm-hmm. So you just get this blah, 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 fighting, arguing, and it's not really, how do I say, expressing and certainly not positively influencing experience. And some of the other red flags then are words that would be, for example, in NLP, we talk about problem frame versus outcome frame. When somebody starts speaking of something and it's only what's the problem and what to go away from and how to get rid of it, red flag doesn't mean it's bad. It just means watch out, because it could take you, could take you down the rabbit hole. Another example would be words that involve negative identity messages. One of the things we say in NLP is that we separate identity from behavior. And so we say, okay, usually a person's identity, you're not born a bad person. But what happens is maybe because of these thought viruses and other things, you're going to get confused. You're going to get, have behaviors that are actually not even helpful to yourself.
And absolutely.
So, but if you start hearing language that is, putting down that identity, calling somebody names, calling people vermin, whatever, that's another thing where you got to go, wait, watch out. That's probably, again, getting to this level that's too disconnected from actual experience. And some others are things like, we know in NLP about going away from versus towards. So I'm showing, one of the things I show in the book, I'm giving examples from, like on the cover, there's people like Gandhi, people like Socrates, people like Martin Luther King Jr., people who influenced the world in a positive way through language. And I'm also contrasting them with language that, people that use language to create divisiveness. I'm not blaming anybody, but just saying, hey, watch out, because if you start hearing this kind of language, it's going to take you in this direction, and it may not be the direction you want to go. One of the other things I do in there is, and we'll do in the program as well, is I'm showing how one of the important people in the foundation of NLP, Milton Erickson, used these.
I was just about to ask you.
Yeah. So every pattern shows an example of how Milton Erickson used that pattern in a way to transform somebody's life in a positive way. And it shows how he's sort of taking maybe they have this sort of thought virus, this limiting belief, and he's being able to do this kind of verbal aikido, if you will. So you can take it and shift it. And that's kind of the idea of the magic. What seems negative, but now here's a positive in it. And yes, and then in this book I talk about there's sort of the principles, there's the skills, because the skills are more than just, these are not just verbal recipes. Each one of these is a reflection of a kind of a mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not just, okay, I'm going to substitute these words for that words. It's not that kind of mental operation. It's much more, I need to take this in, I have this mindset, I'm sort of processing it through that mindset. So when it comes out, I want to kind of, in a certain way, filter the impurities out of it, and then say, okay, there's probably a positive intention, even in what seems like the most limiting belief.
It's difficult to look at one's own mindset. Yes. That is so hard. Yes. That's so difficult. I remember when I started with NLP years and years ago, that was like an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Beliefs? Do I have beliefs?
Yeah.
And do they impact my emotions and my behavior?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it was a new world opening, and it's not easy.
Yeah, and it's true, but it's actually one of these patterns is what we call meta frame, and then we know we in NLP we talk about meta position, because you're right. When I would start working with people, they go, "Oh yeah, that's a kind of limiting belief," and they go, "That's not a belief. That is how it is.
That's what I feel.
Not a belief." And so that's the first thing is, and I think
because we don't even see we have it.
Yeah, and Carl Jung, I think, said it really well. He said, whatever you're not aware of appears to you as destiny. I mean, so whatever I'm not aware of inside of me, I just think is that way. And I think this is part of the goal of this book and the work we do is to free people, to free us from, like, neuro-linguistic programming is not about programming people. It's about freeing people run.
Oh, I love that way you said it. It's about freeing, helping them to see it and change and
have
choices and become more satisfied and happy and
or really discover more. Who am I? Not what am I supposed to be, told to be. I mean, one of the things, I think it's the tragedies of social media, and you see it when the rise in suicide rates of young people, is they're not living their own life. You think I'm supposed to be this way. If I'm not that way, there's something wrong with me. And so I think this whole notion that this is why I think if you can sort of filter those viruses out, then you can really have that sense of discovering, what is my life?
Yeah, and that comes through also this understanding, how do I function as a human being?
Yeah.
That was like wow, what is it to be a human being?
Yeah.
How do I function? I have belief system, I have values, I have behavior.
But I'm more than that.
But I'm even, one of my spiritual teachers always said, we're so much more than just this,
Yeah.
So it's, but we don't learn anything about that in school.
No.
Nothing.
That's why
Anyway.
I thought this is especially important now, because, we do, I mean, I see it when you have these filters, you see it on the media all the time. And this, for me, that these red flags go off. And I think it's important for us to be able to have that kind of, let's say, discernment.
Absolutely. Because I wrote critical thinking.
Yes.
Because I was like, wow, Sleight of Mouth, it's all about an NLP, like the meta model, the you have the framing already and Sleight of Mouth and, being, paying attention to the words and how the sentences are constructed and be able to identify and understand. And because critical thinking, that is so important today.
In fact, in this book, I was saying, so there's principles, then there's skills, then there's the patterns themselves, and then there's what I call the strategies, which is, in this book, there's 14 of these different, we call them types of verbal reframing. Being able to use language to reframe, to re-perceive something. And then there's what I call the strategies, which are how do you put them together? And for example, one of the people I'm looking at is Socrates, and we all know there's the Socratic method of critical thinking.
Absolutely.
And so I'm saying, well, what that method is actually not just one of these patterns; it's a kind of a combination, and you'll see repetitions of certain of these patterns. Where you go, okay, that actually helps me to question some thought or some belief.
Absolutely.
And then there's other examples of people like Gandhi, who was trying to shift perspectives about violence and the role of violence. Do you really need violence to be safe and things like that? So how do we question some of these, seemingly, embedded belief systems that we have?
And we think they are true. We think they're true. We're like, that's the way it is. That's the way the world is, etc. I like to think about also reframing as it's like almost like an intellectual gymnastic.
Yeah.
Questioning from here, questioning from there, from there, and just see what comes out and understand more and more what it's all about.
Yes. And I think that to me is this notion of multiple intelligences. And I think one of the points we make is that there's verbal intelligence, which of course is great. It's one of the things that separates us as human beings from other animals. But there's other intelligences, or there's emotional intelligence. There's relational intelligence. And one of the challenges is that if you just get into, and I think it's one of the big potential dangers, if you will, of the rise of artificial intelligence, which is not coming from experience. It's coming from, it's mining words and other words and other words. And then that's creating something that is not coming from human experience. So one of the things this is saying is, I've got to keep connecting us back to experience, meaning things like breathe it through your body. Don't just think it.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get disconnected, disassociated.
Some people also say, listen to your inner voice.
Yeah.
So listen to your intuition.
Yeah.
Does your heart say?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
because you have your head, your cognition, your interpretations, your words, using all that, but you had your heart, you had your inner experience, you know, like.
And you know, what's interesting is one of the things that I'm ending with in this book is I'm showing that sort of the antidote to a lot of these thought viruses, or one of the places that you started, is the strategies of genius. So how do because the strategies of genius are all about close to the future, use multiple intelligences, multiple senses. And so it's very interesting that when you take these patterns of sleight of mouth and you put them through these strategies of genius, what you do is then you get language used in a brilliant way. It's language that's going to create positive results. It's going to create healing. It's going to create innovation. So, you know, they think...
Yeah. I just wanted, because time is flying, we wanted to make a short interview, and now we could talk about this for hours and hours and days. So who would you recommend this course for? Who?
Wow.
Well, I have an idea, but I wanted to know your...
You know, one of the things that from the very beginning that Bandler and Grinder used to say that NLP was developed for is what they called professional communicators. And professional communicators are anybody who needs to use language, communication in particular, but language to make a living.
Yeah.
So this would be obviously people like coaches, like therapists, but also it could be people who are, like trainers, obviously, politicians. I would hope politicians eventually get around to this. Leaders.
Yeah, and I also wrote down parents.
Parents, of course, because we're like children, teachers. Exactly.
Because it's like, who's not communicating?
Right, exactly.
That's the question. Who's not communicating? Right. We're all communicating.
And we're I mean, they would say and again, we might say, well, a parent is it's not a profession, but it's where communication makes a difference. It's where that's going to be what really is creating the impact on what you do. And obviously the way that parents communicate to their children, to each other, makes a huge difference.
Pay attention to the sentences you say, how you say it, the words you're using, because it can be words can destroy someone and they can uplift someone totally.
Exactly.
But if I don't know that I use the words that destroys or create problems, so it's like,
this is one of the skills we say that the state that you're in is going to determine what the kind of language that comes out. And so if I'm in a really constricted negative state, my language is probably going to reflect that. And so one of the things is, if I'm listening, I can realize, oh, wait a minute, is this really what I want? And I think big part of this is it helps you to be clear, what do I want? What do I want to create if I'm a parent, for my children, if I'm a leader or a manager, like collaborators, and then what kind of language is going to help me to do that best?
Yeah, and also I think words create emotions.
Yeah.
And what kind of emotions do I want to, cultivate?
Exactly.
In being a parent, being a teacher, working, being a director, it's all over. What do I want to do? I want to motivate a person? Do I want to say something nice to uplift?
Yeah. In fact, in the book, and some of the things we'll cover, as I'm saying, so you can use sleight of mouth, for example, as you said, to motivate. I can use it for critical thinking. I can use it to sort of question the validity of a generalization. I can use it to switch a perception, so like shift a perception from one thing to another. So it's language does a lot. Freud said, language and magic were once one and the same thing, and that words still today have much of this magical power. And just like you said, they can bring the greatest joy or the greatest sorrow to people. And it's important to realize we have the power of that magic.
And I was just going to ask, just because of time is flying, are we going to practice?
Absolutely.
Are we, because NLP is all about practicing all these courses. So we're going to try out all these different tools.
Exactly. So what we'll be doing is, so there's like I said, there's the patterns themselves, and usually what we'll do is we're going to do sort of a self practice with the pattern. So I'm going to have my own. So here's my own belief. Here's my own challenge. Let me apply that pattern to that and see. It's kind of like process it through and see what comes out. But then we'll also be working with some of these strategies. So okay, now I know some of these patterns. What is a strategy by which I would use it? And that strategy might be something like what we call creating a belief bridge. A belief bridge would be, okay, I have this challenge. I'm sort of stuck. Well, what's the belief that's going to bridge me over that challenge? So we'll be working with those kinds of things. How do you put it into practice for yourself, but also supporting others as a coach or as a facilitator?
Perfect. I just wanted to challenge you.
Okay.
Because, or I just to give an idea for those that are listening, well, because sometimes they say belief, just to give some examples.
Sure.
So I had one that I heard in my coaching sessions the other day.
Great, yes.
Are you ready?
I am ready. I'm ready, 100%.
My boss never asked for my opinion. He thinks I'm stupid.
So
he felt really upset when he said that. He was really, what we're talking about, the link between beliefs and emotion. He was like really upset and,
Yeah. So first of all, if you take that statement, what you're going to realize is that some of these words are going to be the trigger words. Mm-hmm. So my boss never
asked for my opinion. He thinks I'm stupid.
So first of all, if you remember some of my principles, he thinks I'm stupid is already, that's as a negative identity judgment. So one of the first things we're going to do with Sleight of Mouth is we're going to first realize we're not going to just simply try to say to that person, hey, no, you're wrong. You first want to go, the first skill is, I need to understand what this person has this belief because there's an intention. They have a positive, this asserted something in this person. It's a positive intention.
Absolutely.
And in NLP, we talk about pacing and leading. And this is what Sleight of Mouth would do. It's not to try to say you're wrong in your belief. We're going to kind of like the Aikido would be, maybe we're going to take a word like stupid. Mm-hmm. And at first we're going to say, so what I'm hearing you say is that maybe, your boss doesn't think that you have all the answers, or that your boss doesn't think that you're as prepared as you could be. Mm-hmm. So now I'm taking stupid and I'm taking a different word that hopefully is still, what's going to make it work is if it actually still, how do I say, it honors or acknowledges that person's intention. I have belief because I feel, either ignored or unappreciated. Okay, so the problem is it's away from, it doesn't think this. It doesn't want. So I don't want to think, well, so what you would like your boss to, to ask your opinion, and you would like your boss to think you're intelligent. Mm-hmm. So notice there, first of all, I've got to take the problem frame and turn it into an outcome frame.
Yeah.
So what you really want is for your boss to think that your opinion is worthwhile. That's what you would really like. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now notice, instead of just going, wow, what a jerk that guy is, or maybe he's wrong. It's like, okay, well, so now this is the sort of Aikido part. And this is where I'm going to be taking some of these words and I need to be shifting those words into something else. Mm-hmm. And then we might be saying, okay, so I'm wondering, what is it that, your boss needs to know in order to have a different opinion? Mm-hmm. So how can you, so now, again, here's the other thing, right? It's about my boss doesn't do this. Well, and I'm kind of victimized in it. So what I want to be able to do is to turn, and this is why I say Sleight of Mouth is less about, okay, which words am I going to change here? It's more about what's the mindset? What is it that we want to shift it to? And then I can start to find the words that are going to help me to do that. Mm-hmm. So, and you could even say, wow, maybe what you would be really important is, whether he asks or not, you need to show your boss how much, you are able to, to understand about something, because one, you've got to sort of find what is the mindset that needs. It's not so much what. Ultimately, it's not so much what are the words that needs to be shifted. It's what is the mindset that needs to be shifted.
Because it's quite incredible. Because this person, my boss, never asked for my opinion. He thinks I'm stupid. This person wanted to quit his job.
Yeah.
Because he's been telling himself this for month and month.
Yeah.
It's like, we're ruminating in his head. And so people leave jobs. It has consequences, and they don't even know that. He don't even know if it's true. He doesn't even know if it's true.
Another sleight of mouth of that is that you would do what we were calling this metaphrase, where I'd say, wow, that's interesting that you have that belief. When did you start having this belief? Was there a certain experience that made you start to think this? So now what you're doing is first of all, you're naming it as a belief rather than arguing it. And you're sort of putting it into a context that's saying it's not real or not real, that there's some, and you're still acknowledging something must have happened that made you start to think this. And then, so now it's instead of being something that's frozen, it comes back alive. And again, it's really important. Sleight of mouth is not verbal argumentation. It's more of this Aikido and finding, okay, given what I would like for this person with a shift of mindset, which one of these patterns could I use? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I know you have to go. So if you want to sign up for this course, you can go to graines-déveil.ch and sign up for this course. It's going to be in Lausanne, the 25th and the 26th of January. So if you want to learn more about this, please come and join us.
And it's going to be the only one of these courses in Europe.
Wow. I didn't know that. Wow. I am so honored. Please sign up.
Sign up.